The last but one topic in the nursing biochemistry is hemoglobin catabolism and bilirubin metabolism. As you know, bilirubin is an catabolic product of hemoglobin which is further metabolized in the body. When we study about hemoglobin, it's always good to understand about the myoglobin also. The hemoglobin and the myoglobin, both hemoglobin and myoglobin are two oxygen binding proteins. They are present in all large multicellular organisms. What does hemoglobin do? It transports oxygen in the blood and is located in the RBCs. Myoglobin actually stores oxygen present in muscles. When you look at the structure of the hemoglobin, hemoglobin has a quaternary structure, that is the arrangement along the of subunits along an axis, and it is made up of 4 polypeptide chains. So the 4 polypeptides are 2 alpha chains and 2 beta chains. So it will be notated as alpha 2, beta 2. And each will have a heme prosthetic group. So you can see here the pink one, that is on alpha chain, and the green one, which is the beta subunit. The red one is the heme prosthetic group that is at the center of it. So you can see the alpha is and beta both are made of 140 amino acids, but there will be some difference in the sequence of the amino acid. Despite little similarity in their primary sequence, that is the amino acid sequence, the individual polypeptide of the hemoglobin, that is your alpha and beta, have the same three-dimensional or almost identical three-dimensional shape to the polypeptide chain of the myoglobin. Looking at the hemoglobin again, the detailed structure, the heme prosthetic group consists of a protoporphyrin 9 ring and a central iron atom. You can see the central iron atom and the protoporphyrin ring around it. This iron is the to which is the 4 porphyrin ring actually forms bonds with. So you can see the 4 porphyrin ring binding with the iron here. And in addition on one side you can see the porphyrin ring and the iron forms a bond with the proximal histidine or HF8. You can see the proximal histidine bond here, and a residue which is of 8 amino acids along the F helix of the hemoglobin. The sixth bond that is bound to iron is with the molecule of oxygen, O2 here. So this is a structure close to where the oxygen bind is another histidine residue, the distal histidine or E7, which prevents carbon monoxide binding most efficiently. The hemoglobin is an allosteric protein. Allosteric can be modified by modifiers, allosteric inhibitors or allosteric activators. The binding of oxygen is cooperating in nature. The binding of oxygen onto one subunit actually increases the binding of further oxygen into the molecule. So if one is bound, then more will be allowed to bind. The oxygen dissociation curve of hemoglobin is sigmoidal in shape, and whereas that of myoglobin is hyperbolic in nature. You can see that the oxygen dissociation here. You can see myoglobin has higher oxygen affinity, and which is shown in the light blue color, and the pink color is the hemoglobin. It is sigmoidal in nature, and myoglobin responds to muscles oxygen needs, and responds to the hemoglobin responds to oxygen availability. So myoglobin has a greater affinity to oxygen than does for hemoglobin. And oxyhemoglobin has a different quaternary structure form from the deoxyhemoglobin. When oxygen bound and oxygen not bound, they have different shapes. As oxygen binds to the iron, it distorts the heme group and moves it to proximal histidine. This in turn moves the helix F and alters the interaction between the four subunits. Why we are talking about these structural changes? Because they are very important for the binding as well as removal of oxygen, because you know that hemoglobin is the one which has to bind the oxygen, and when it is at lungs it has to actually release the oxygen. So the binding and releasing, it has a cooperative nature so that the process is smoothly done there. And you have not only oxygen binds, C, H plus, CO2 and 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate are allosteric effectors promoting the release of oxygen, and H plus CO2 binds to different parts of the polypeptide chain while 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate binds to the central activity between the four. When we talk about the 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate, we have learned about 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate in the glycolytic pathway. So instead of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, it can also form 2,3-bisphosphoglycerate during the glycolytic pathway. So that actually helps as an allosteric effector in the hemoglobin binding of oxygen. Now we will look at the yellow pigment metabolism, that is the bile pigment metabolism or the bilirubin metabolism. So this is a very important topic. Bilirubin has a great history. Bilirubin discovered by in 1849 in blood extravasates, and he called the yellow pigment as hematoidin. And the term bilirubin was coined by Statler in 1864, and in 1874 Tashnov demonstrated that direct association of bile pigment to the hemoglobin. In 1942 Fischer and Plininger synthesized bilirubin in crystalline form. So bilirubin metabolism is also, you can say, hemoglobin catabolism, because bilirubin is produced from hemoglobin. So what happens after 120 days of lifespan? The RBCs will be worn out in the reticuloendothelial cells of liver, spleen and bone marrow. So to release the hemoglobin. So the hemoglobin will be released. This hemoglobin will be broken down to give heme and globin. Globin, as you know, is a protein, will be broken down into amino acids and will be reutilized. So amino acid is reused always. And the iron in the hemoglobin heme is removed from the heme and transferred to ferritin and sent to RBC precursor for reuse again. So the iron also has a pool, and that is reutilized. The porphyrin compound formed from the remaining part is known as the bilirubirin, which is green in color, which is converted to bilirubin immediately, which is yellow in color. You look at here, see, the after 120 days, red cells in reticuloendothelial system of spleen, bone marrow and liver, they are broken down to release the hemoglobin. The globin will be released, and the heme again can be from other hepatic cytochrome enzymes which are all containing iron. This heme will release the iron and will be converted to biliverdin. So the biliverdin reductase enzyme convert it to bilirubin. The bilirubin that is bound to, that is synthesized here in the reticuloendothelial cell, is transported through the blood by binding it with the albumin. So the bilirubin albumin complex, which is known as the indirect bilirubin or unconjugated bilirubin in the first stage. We will understand what is this indirect and unconjugated later. What happens now you have the bilirubin, which is the bilirubin albumin complex, or which is the unconjugated bilirubin, or the indirect bilirubin. See, this unconjugated bilirubin, since it is bound to albumin, cannot be degraded by the excreted by the kidney. So it is not water soluble also. So it has to be made water soluble by a process known as conjugation. So we are going to see this conjugation process which is taking place in the liver. So after detaching from albumin, so the albumin will be removed from bilirubin when it is taken up by the hepatocytes or the level cells by the sinusoidal bilirubin transporters. The bilirubin is then conjugated with a molecule known as glucuronic acid. So two molecules of glucuronic acid will conjugate. So it will form bilirubin diglucuronide in presence of an enzyme called bilirubin UDP glucuronide transferase 1 and 2. So the first conjugation and the second conjugation happens. So the bilirubin diglucuronide which is thus formed is known as conjugated bilirubin. So now it is conjugated with the glucuronide. So it is known as conjugate. Now you understand why albumin bilirubin complex is known as unconjugated. It was not conjugated, so it was sent to liver to conjugate so that it will be water soluble. It is also known as direct bilirubin. Why? Because this conjugated bilirubin directly gives reaction in the Vandenberg reaction. So the albumin bilirubin complex will not react, but the direct conjugated bilirubin or bilirubin diglucuronide will directly reacts. Then how will you measure the albumin bilirubin complex? So you have to use some chemicals or alcohol or something like that, so that it will break that bilirubin albumin complex so that it can be measured in the blood. So at that time what will be, it will measure both conjugated and the unconjugated after treating with methanol, so that it will give the total bilirubin. So in laboratory what you do is you measure the direct bilirubin as well as the total bilirubin and find out the difference, that will be the indirect or unconjugated bilirubin. So further moving to the next slide, further metabolism, what happens is in the intestine, so this bilirubin diglucuronide which is water soluble will come through the bile duct and will come to the small intestine. So in the small intestine the glucuronic acid is removed from that, for the conjugation is removed, and the bilirubin is converted to urobilinogen. So here it is converted to urobilinogen by intestinal bacteria. A part of the urobilinogen is then reabsorbed. You can see it is reabsorbed back into the circulation as well as excreted through the kidney. So to the portal circulation and is excreted into the urine through the kidneys. This urobilinogen is oxidized to urobilinogen, which is slightly dark in color, which is the cause of the yellow coloration in urine. And remaining urobilinogen is excreted into the feces as stercobilinogen. സ്റ്റൂളിൽ വരുമ്പോൾ അതിനെ stercobilinogen എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. It's known as stercobilinogen and oxidized to stercobilin, that is the base a pale yellow color to stool. What is jaundice? So one of the major clinical condition that will come across under the bilirubin metabolism is the jaundice. Jaundice is a condition where the serum bilirubin is above 2.5 milligram per deciliter. Milligram per deciliter is a normal, the unit used for bilirubin. But it is, the normal bilirubin is actually from 0.2 to 1.0 milligram per deciliter. So what happens when the concentration is above 2.5, they will lead to deposition in soft tissues to cause yellow coloration of soft tissue. That is why you see in jaundice, you see the yellowish coloration, discoloration or yellowish eyes. If you under the nail also you can see the yellow color. So this condition is known as jaundice. So when the bilirubin is above 2.5, you have the discoloration of soft tissues, and this will be known as jaundice. There are three types of jaundice, and it is known as pre-hepatic, that is the cause is before the liver. Hepatic, the cause is within the liver, and post-hepatic, that is the cause is after the liver. So based on എവിടെയാണ് പ്രോബ്ലം എന്ന് ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് whether it is classified into pre-hepatic ലിവറിന് മുന്നേ ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് ലിവറിനുള്ളിൽ പോസ്റ്റ് ഹെപ്പാറ്റിക് ലിവറിന് ശേഷമുള്ള ജോണ്ടിസ്. നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഓൾറെഡി കണ്ടു ലിവറിന് മുന്നേ കുറേ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ലിവറിൽ കുറേ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, ലിവറിന് ശേഷം കുറേ പ്രോസസ്സ് നടക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. സിൻസ് ദ പ്രോസസ് ആർ any abnormality in the process before the liver will end up in pre-hepatic jaundice, any abnormality within the liver will cause hepatic jaundice, and any abnormality after the liver will cause post-hepatic jaundice. So how will you differentially diagnose these three types of jaundice? So it's a very important question or very important aspect of liver jaundice diagnosis. So we have a battery of tests, a group of tests that will help you to understand the differential diagnosis based on the technical things. First we will understand what are the cause. The cause is hemolysis is the cause of prehepatic jaundice. Virus or toxins are the cause for hepatic jaundice. Obstruction is the cause for post-hepatic jaundice. So there are other synonyms also for prehepatic jaundice, also known as hemolytic jaundice, neonatal jaundice, because usually hemolysis in neonates is one of the major conditions. Hepatitis, that is cellular damage of the liver, and obstructive jaundice, regurgitative jaundice, surgical jaundice. These are all the other synonyms of post-hepatic jaundice. So area of problem, as we have already discussed, the area problem in prehepatic is before liver, in hepatic is in the liver, and post-hepatic is after the liver. All three cases there is an increase in bilirubin. That's why we call them as jaundice. So the bilirubin will be always above 2.5. What happened to the serum indirect bilirubin? Indirect bilirubin will be only increased in the prehepatic jaundice. It will be biphasic. That means it can be slightly normal or increased in the hepatic jaundice. We may not be able to identify hepatic jaundice with the indirect bilirubin. It will be normally or slightly increased in the post-hepatic jaundice. The direct bilirubin is increased in post-hepatic jaundice, so the picture is extremely opposite. So it will be normal or slightly increased in the prehepatic, will be biphasic in the hepatic jaundice. Urine bilirubin. So you can see urobilinogen, but you can also see urine bilirubin. That is will be present only in post-hepatic jaundice. Post-hepatic jaundice is due to obstruction, as we told earlier. Since it is because of obstruction, what happens is instead of this thing coming to the small intestine, there will be an obstruction that will cause the regurgitation of this bilirubin into the circulation, that will end up in the conjugated bilirubin to be present in the urine. So in obstructive jaundice, you can see increased bilirubin present in urine, but in prehepatic jaundice, since the bilirubin is bound to albumin, it will never be present in urine, so it will be absent. The urine urobilinogen will be increased based on the increased hemolysis, or in prehepatic jaundice we can see an increased urine urobilinogen. It will be normal in hepatic jaundice and it will be absent in the post-hepatic. Why it is absent in post-hepatic jaundice? Due to obstruction, the bilirubin is not reaching the small intestine. So it cannot be converted to urobilinogen by the bacteria in the intestine. And now we will go to the inborn errors of bilirubin metabolism. See, there are some genetic diseases that cause the which are known as inborn errors of bilirubin metabolism. One is Gilbert's disease. So it is the decreased activity of UDP glucuronal transferase, as we have told, that the conjugating enzyme. So there is a mild unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia less than of 3 gram per deciliter. It's of no major issue, but this will be seen in many normal adults. Crigler-Najjar syndrome 1 and 2 are two other things. Again, it is complete loss of UDP glucuronal transferase activity and complete loss of bilirubin glucotransferase activity. Again, this can be of less than 20 milligram or more than 20 milligram. So normal liver function test will be there, and it is treated with the phenobarbital. Next one is Dubin-Johnson syndrome. Excretion of bile is affected here. Bicanalicular multi-specific organic anion transporter is damaged. Mild, predominantly conjugated hyperbilirubinemia, it's an autosomal recessive disease. And Next one is a Rotor syndrome. It is like similar to DJS, and copper-porphyrin excretion in the urine is increased. How will you do the bilirubin in the, or identify or estimate the bilirubin in the laboratory? So DIASO methods are the common methods that are used in the laboratory, which was earlier introduced by Ehrlich in 1883. Diazotacid sulfanic acid and diazo reagent reacts with the bilirubin to produce two azopyroles, which are reddish purple in neutral pH and blue at low pH, low or high pH values. Alcohol was later found to accelerate the reaction. Molly and Evelyn method are used for methanol as the accelerator. That is, your unconjugated bilirubin will be reacting in the presence of the accelerator, which is known as methanol. Jendrasik and Groff in 1938 modified it. So it is usually the Jendrasik and Groff diazo testing is the laboratory test commonly used in the laboratory now. The normal direct bilirubin concentration is from 0.0 to 0.2 milligram per deciliter, and the direct bilirubin is bilirubin diglucuronide or the conjugated bilirubin. It directly reacts with the diazo reagent which we are discussing. Indirect bilirubin normal range is from 0.2 to 0.8 milligram per deciliter, which is the albumin-bilirubin complex, which is also known as unconjugated bilirubin. So it reacts in presence of only ion accelerator. It can be either sodium alcohol or it can be sodium benzoate. The total bilirubin can actually will be when you actually add the accelerator, you will get the total bilirubin, which will be a combination of indirect and direct bilirubin. The total bilirubin reference range is from 0.2 to 1.0 milligram per deciliter. Thank you all.